Welcome to this edition of Voices in Hyperspace. We're looking at episode 5 of season 4 called The Long Night. For this episode, we are actually seeing the wrapping up of one major story, actually two major stories, and then we are actually moving towards the climax of another major story. To me, what's interesting about this is episode 5 of a 22 episode season. So what the heck are they doing?
Yeah, because it seems like they're still wrapping up season 3.
Yeah.
But like they're going into the season with all the wrap up. Like the point of this is to wrap up. Instead of like what you would normally get, a new story.
Mm-hmm. The last episode we had finished with a couple of questions like, what are the Vorlons doing? Are they our enemy now? And this episode just blatantly answers like, yeah, the Vorlons are our enemy now because they are destroying entire planets. And it's almost like humans are not part of the war anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said last episode, like the ants are watching these giants pass through the galaxy.
Giants stomping on the playground. But then like if they were the ants, then they're not giants. They're just children being pissy. Throwing tents.
Yep.
Destroying whole planets. Kicking down ant heels.
Even though these things are beyond us, they're not beyond reasonings or some of the what we would consider a faulty reasoning, and they just have power.
Yeah.
At first, it's like humans were fighting this war to win for the good side, and now it's like who we thought was good doesn't mean us any good, and we're on our own.
Yeah, and they portrayed the Vorlons and the Shadows as these bigger, stronger, smarter than us. Like they were more than what we were.
Yeah.
For them to just turn around and throw a tantrum like any other species would do.
I think we can go ahead and jump into it because there's like two really big scenes in this. Actually, let me think about that. 1, 2. There are 4 really big scenes, and we'll spend some time talking about those. But also, Bryan Cranston is in this episode. A young Bryan Cranston.
Is that the one from X-Files?
No, not from X-Files. He's Walter White from Breaking Bad. He also plays the dad on
Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, Malcolm in the Middle, and he's popping up in a lot of things lately. But yeah, this is one of his earlier gigs, and you know what? He didn't do so good. But I don't know. Maybe he had a very short amount of time to get across the lines and stuff. But it's great seeing him, see his hair.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty heavy role.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Like, how do you portray that role and with accuracy? Like,
also, he got credited pretty significantly in this episode, so he had to have been known in the acting world for a good while. So maybe he's been in a lot of other stuff. I gotta check that out. But it was pretty cool. So we start the episode off. Captain Sheridan is recording his log, and he's talking about getting things ready for this shadow war. And it's starting to get extremely scary. He says either, in the next couple of hours, this will be the beginning of a new age or the death of everything we've worked for. Whew, I'm sitting there with him like, that's pretty heavy. Commander Ivanova reports that the Shadows are retaliating against the Vorlons. And so they're attacking the Vorlon outposts. Just as Sheridan predicted, like they're not attacking each other directly, just kind of like colonies, outposts, and younger species that are influenced, and they're kind of caught in the middle. And the Shadows have used a weapon against against the outposts, and it spreads like this living cloud over the whole planet. And Ivanova talks about how, like, okay, we knew that they could kill planets, but I don't know what this is. We tried to scan it. I have no idea what's going on. And it's like Honestly, it looks like goo, just like pouring across the planet.
Yeah.
And that planet with the outpost had like 12 million beings on it, and yeah, they're being dissolved. They're being destroyed. The Babylon crew is they're in awe of the destructive power of the Shadows and the Vorlons, because what they've encountered in the past was like, okay, they have impervious ships, they can blow things up, but we can fight them, we can win. But it's like, if they got weapons like this, what in the world are we even doing?
Just standing waiting for our doom.
Down on Narn, Londo is holding a secret meeting, and this meeting is really cool. Because he has a bunch of Centauri with him in the dark room, and they are planning the assassination of Emperor Cartagia. And they talk about how as long as Cartagia is alive, the Shadows won't leave Centauri Prime, and that's why Londo had lured him to Narn. And he kind of yells at them. He's like, look, no one in the court had the courage to stand up. And one of the guys rebuts. He's like, look, we had Lord Malachi, but he was taken up by Rifa, and Rifa was your friend, and you were part of that whole plot. This is kind of your fault, Londo.
Yeah, it is. Like, you're the one got him in the office in the first place. Like,
yeah.
He's sitting there. We're gonna have one of our guys in office.
Mm-hmm.
Well, technically not office, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But
on the throne or whatever.
yeah, then it turns out to be him. Yeah.
Right.
In power. Like, you didn't try to find out who, because apparently controlling him is not an option. Y'all were supposed to put somebody in power that y'all could control.
And Lord Cartagia is an absolute lunatic. So yeah. And so once again, Londo is faced with the consequences of the decisions he made earlier in the season, thinking that he's going to bring back the old days, and what he brought back was a monster. We could just take a moment and look at this. The old days that he wanted were monstrous in the first place. And
yes,
the Emperor is a monster who's making these unilateral decisions. And ultimately his decisions is like, oh, since I'm the Emperor, I'm going to become a god, and I'm going to destroy Centauri Prime. And Londo is like, no, we can't have that.
like, Cartagia is like the extreme of the ideal of what old Centauri culture was.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing that went through my mind is that Veer is the opposite.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We'll touch on that a little bit later in the episode, because yeah, though I'm glad that you pointed that out, and there's something interesting that happens. But Londo highlights how it is vital that we have to kill this guy in the next 17 hours. If he's not dead, the Vorlons will be here and they'll destroy us.
I like how he's meeting in a dark room with other Centauri who still have their bodies.
Yeah, they're still alive. They're not just heads on pikes. So the next scene, this is in Act 1. So the next scene, I think, is a really important one, because we get another deep inside look at Ivanova. So Ivanova is talking to Sheridan in his quarters. It's dark, so I'm guessing it's supposed to be like nighttime or whatever. And they're having a discussion about what to do about the Shadows and Vorlons. And Sheridan asks Ivanova for a favor, and she's upset because she's like, okay, I'll be with the fleet this time. And he's like, see, that's the thing I wanted to talk to you about. You won't be with the fleet. And she's like, oh, come on. Every time you guys are trying to do some death-defying stuff, some self-sacrificing stuff, I want to go. And y'all keep telling me to sit at home. I can't sit at home this time. And
so one time they did that, she's like, I put in this many flight hours.
Right. She's over there labeling off her stats, and they're like, no, we can't have that. And here's why. Ivanova is the most important character on the show. Just about. Even when she doesn't seem like she knows what she's doing, she can run the station without either captain, without the chief of security, without the head of the medical staff. It's Ivanova. She doesn't like it, but she can do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not fair, but she does have that skill.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one day she's going to be a wonderful captain of her own ship or station. She
Mm-hmm.
has the experience to go for it. But what Sheridan tells her is, we need you to keep looking for the first ones. And she's still mad about that. And she's like, I don't even know where to look. The last time we looked, it was, it was pretty bad. The only thing we found was a bunch of lost Vorlons. And Sheridan explains, like, well, with Lorien on our side, he's definitely going to help us be successful. Besides, for this rendezvous that we're cooking up, we need the first ones to be there. And Ivanova shares a story from her childhood. And this is what I mean by a serious scene. It's her childhood trauma that informs her activity and her behavior on the station.
And she's aware.
Yes. Oh my
So
God.
that's so important.
Yeah.
That it's okay to have demons and shadows. Just get to know them. If you understand them and you become friends with them, you can work with it. If you ignore them and run from them, you're gonna mess up.
Yeah. And she shares the story of her childhood trauma. Her father watches her as she plays, and they have a little sweet interaction. And then her mom tells her, like, hey, you just go over there and wait for me. And then later her dad comes and tells her that her mom had left, which was his way of telling her that her mom had committed suicide. She was a telepath, and she chose the drugs to dampen her powers, and she couldn't take it anymore. So she was like, okay, I need one more sweet memory with my child, and then I am checking out. And she did. And the way Ivanova expresses this through her relationship with Sheridan and the rest of the crew, she's like, don't leave me. Don't protect me. Whenever someone tells me to wait for them, I know that they're not coming back. And she's like, I'd rather just be there with you.
Mm-hmm.
And Sheridan looks like he's very moved by this. But he's like, look, you have to understand everything that we're doing is important. You are playing a critical role. And she says, okay, but I need you to promise me when it comes down to the wire, I'm on that front line with y'all. I'm not left hanging out in space, the sole survivor. I need to be out there dying with y'all.
She out there looking for people. Like, y'all left me to look.
Yeah.
Search and rescue while y'all in the middle of a battle.
Right. So she agrees, and she's like, okay, so how soon do you need me to go? Sheridan says, as soon as possible. Lorien has been notified. And then he takes a moment, and this is a very tender moment. He expresses how much he values the friendship, how he's proud of her, and he really cares for her. And you get to see Ivanova smile, a real smile. And there is real love between these two people. They really cherish each other. And here we are near the end of the world, and it's a moment of mutual respect and care for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Back on Narn, in the replica palace that was created for Cartagia and the Centauri, Cartagia is being entertained by a jester, and this dude is just goofing around, moving around and stuff, making weird sounds. And Londo is just like trying to create space, but Cartagia invites him in closer, and he's like, Londo, my good friend, I like you, and I have decided I'm gonna take you with me. And Londo is confused. He's like, take you? What do you mean with take me with you? He's like, when I ascend to godhood, I decided I needed a high priest. Yeah, here we go. I need a high priest, and you will be the first to enter my temple. And that continues until Cartagia explains, like, when Centauri is destroyed, he's not gonna be there. And Londo is astounded, like, what do you mean you're not gonna be on Centauri? He's like, yeah, we're gonna watch the destruction from a safe distance.
What type of safe distance is there from that?
I don't know.
I mean, he's delusional, so I don't think he knows either.
Yeah, he's very delusional.
You think he can park a ship next to the shadows and be like, I would sit there with his snacks?
Right.
Because he's crazy.
Right. And then, like, nobody's going to fire on the ships. Um, and Londo quickly excuses himself. He rushes to meet with Jakar in prison, and he's like, "Look, we gotta talk." Uh, Jakar, by the way, is missing an eye. It was plucked out by the Emperor's men in the last episode. Eye is bleeding. It's wrapped, it's covered with a little wrapping. Jakar, it looks like he's endured some extreme torture. And Londo is basically saying like, okay, so here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna continue to be tortured, but here's what we need to do. You're scheduled to be executed. You're gonna cause a distraction, but whatever you do, don't touch Cartagia. Is super important, and I think I know why. One, just what happens later in the episode, but then two, if a Narn kills the Emperor, it'll just be the Centauri versus the Narn again.
Yeah, then they get to take it out on all the Narn. But if a Centauri kills him, actually, they don't even know that he killed them. They're like, he just died.
Right.
But he sneakily kills him in their traditional way of taking power from other people, then it's just that.
Yeah. And Londo is very much pleading with him like, look, we're right here. We got to get this done today. And Jakar explains why his eye is missing. And it's very poetic, but it also sounds biblical. He's like, my eye offended him, and he decided to pluck it out. That's in reference to Jesus, and as Londo explains the assassination, Jakar tells Londo that his heart is empty. And this is where we're starting to feel more sympathy for Jakar, because Jakar, he's in a very emotional state. He's very weak. And the thing that he's thinking about is what's the spiritual condition of Londo. And the reason why is because Londo is trying to assassinate the head of state, an entire emperor of his planet. And he's trying to do it as if it's just another day on the job.
Because it is.
Right.
That's how they do. I mean, he already killed his best friend and blamed it on other people. So,
yeah. And so after Londo leaves there, he goes back up and he sees that you hear a blast. And you see the shoe of the jester, and you see Cartagia in a cavalier manner striding through the throne room. He picks up the jester's shoe, and he was just like, he says, humor is such a subjective thing, don't you think? In other words, he was like, he didn't like that the jester mocked him earlier, and he just had him killed. We really got to kill this guy. And we stick with the Centauri for a little bit because we see that in his chambers, Veer has obtained the poison needle that is going to be used to assassinate Cartagia. Him and Londo are talking about it, how it needs to be administered directly to the subject, and it is untraceable, but it's such a small amount. You got to press this little pin and a needle comes out. And they talk about the risk of the assassination attempt. And the idea is Londo is going to be the one to sacrifice himself to kill the Emperor, to administer the poison. And they kind of like laugh back and forth, like, even though this is a super serious thing, I wonder what will happen. He says, how long does it take for the poison to take effect? Because he's like, will it take long enough for me to stab him and then the Emperor would be like, Londo killed me. And they kind of riff on that back and forth. Like, Londo, or Lon. And then
kill Londo.
Right, yeah. Veer's like, kill Londo. And then they just kind of have a serious moment. It's like, that's not ideal either. So and they just have a moment where it's like, okay, this is a Londo activity, assassination. I mean, yeah, he oversaw the death of Lord Retha. He stabbed his best friend and killed him. So yeah, Londo's a murderer. So yeah, let's add Emperor to that list.
The fact that they have a whole procedure for killing your friend,
Right. Right.
like special clothes and special, like this is just a Monday to them.
Right.
It's so normal to them that they have a procedure for it.
Mm. Yep. We move back into the throne room. So Jakar's being picked up by the Centauri, like the officers. He has that gallows post. His neck is sticking through. His neck is sticking through the middle of it. His arms are up and chained, and they playing these drums. Is very stoic, and Jakar kind of stumbles, and there are a group of Narn who were watching him in the procession. He's like, "Look, don't let them see you be afraid. Right now it's time for y'all to be brave." Because the idea is Jakar's about to go be executed. And he's led into the throne room where Cartagia is. And Cartagia is like, "Ah, yes, they're very close. Now you will witness the justice of Cartagia. This will be the stuff of legend." And I'm like, very cryptic. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into, Cartagia.
And his justice is just him manipulating people.
Yeah, like a true Centauri. Yeah, and he's very arrogant and entitled about the whole thing. He's untouchable because he is the emperor. And so when they bring Jakar in front of him, he sentences Jakar to death because he's like, you've been what did he say? You are tried for treason and insurrection and all of this stuff, and the sentence is death by vivisection. And I missed this part, but earlier as Jakar was like marching down marching into the throne room, Cartagia leans over and talks to Londo. He goes, "Hey, I had his change replaced because those old ones looked weak." Which, as much as bold as Cartagia is, he's like, these Narn are pretty strong, and I'm a little afraid of them, so I don't want to deal with him attempting to escape. I guess to him, the successful part would be, if we can successfully kill this guy with no problems, I'm great.
Yeah, since he annoyed him by not screaming while he tortured him.
Right. So, unfortunately, Jakar has other plans because he grabs the chains and he starts flexing, and Cartagia's like, "Don't try to break them. I had those replaced with this, I don't know what kind of steel, this special steel." And Jakar doesn't care because he keeps flexing and he breaks the wood and he destroys the chains, and him and the Narn start beating the crap out of the Centauri. And the whole scene is like very chaotic. And at that point, Londo is like, "Okay, it's time to move." He grabs Cartagia, like, "Hey, we got to get you out of here, Emperor." And they go into like a little back room, and Londo reaches and he grabs the little poison pin, and he's trying to like get it ready for Cartagia. Cartagia is pissed off. He like turns around and smacks Londo, and Londo drops the pin, and Cartagia starts ranting, and he's like, "Where were you, by the way? Where were you when I was born and I became great?" And all of this stuff. He's being a lunatic. And he starts to choke Londo, and Londo is like very surprised. He doesn't know what's going on, and he tries to get away, and then Cartagia turns around and walks right into the needle that is being held by Veer. And Veer looks at him and he's like, "Oh," and he pushes it more into his heart. And then he pulls it out and he walks back, and Cartagia is just like, "It's not fair. I was about to become a god." And then he just like his body just goes limp, and Londo catches him.
For them to go on about, see, him trying to tell someone who killed him would have been the logical thing, but he's crazy. So when he died, it was all about him.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Oh, also his last words, this part I thought was funny. His last words was an angry no. He was so mad that it was Veer that stabbed him. and he was trying to choke Veer as he like went limp. So he didn't say anybody's name. He was angry, and then curtains. And then that's where Londo acts real quick. He thinks about it. He's like, because one of the guards come in, he's like, someone go get a doctor. The Emperor's collapsed, and we think it's his hearts.
It's like, how do you know that?
Right.
She'd been like, I don't know what happened. It is his heart. I think it's his heart.
Right. Which the people in the court probably secretly wish, like, oh God, this dude is dead. Finally, thank God. Thank the gods.
They're probably not even thinking about it.
Yeah. And so we still hang out with the Centauri here. This is where Londo announces the death of Cartagia as dual heart attacks. They don't know what happened, but he suggests that it's an ill omen by the gods, and they have to withdraw from Narn, because the last time they were dealing with Narn, the last emperor died and was killed or whatever. And this time, while we're on Narn, this emperor's died, so we just need to leave these people alone. We need to go home and clean our hands of the whole thing.
Actually mind our own business.
Right. Finally, for once in the galaxy. And before they're able to do anything else, one of the members of the court was like, okay, look, Cartagia has no heirs and there's no clear successor, and we need a strong leader in these times. So Londo, we are making you our prime minister. So congratulations. You're our new leader right now. We are at your command. And Londo is like, oh crap. Okay. Which this makes me think, like, maybe that was discussed during that secret meeting, you know? Maybe they were like, okay, when Cartagia dies, y'all need to make me prime minister so we can get the hell out of here.
Yeah, y'all need to put somebody in power before somebody else does.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Could also be a true.
So they're like, okay, well, let's get out of Narn. Let's go right now. And we need to get these shadows off our planet so we don't destroy it, you know, so we're not destroyed by the Vorlons. So now we finally switch back to Babylon 5. Sheridan and his team, they're observing one of the Shadow's death clouds that's destroying a Vorlon colony. And so we see back and forth, they're destroying like their outposts, their colonies, but they're not fighting each other. This is Bryan Cranston's character, the Ranger, where he's observing it and he's explaining like, okay, we have this a cloud of like missiles or something that are being dropped on the planet, and they are burrowing through and they're destroying it. They find out that the Vorlons that are in hyperspace are headed to Coriana 6. And it's funny because, like, while this is an extremely serious scene, the joke that kind of lightens it up is Lanier is trying to tell them the information that they're discussing. And every time he opens his mouth, another person interrupts. And then they finally realize, like, Coriana 6 is where they're going to go. There are over 6 billion people on the planet, and they got to move fast, otherwise that planet's going to be destroyed. And Garibaldi's like, how are we going to do that? We're outclassed with these weapons. What is our plan? Back on Narn, Londo and Veer are talking about leaving Centauri Prime. So what it is, Londo walks in Veer's quarters, and Veer is drunk. He is toe up drunk. And it's because he's drinking to deal with his guilt. Throughout the whole series, Veer has been kind of like a humanitarian of a type, a pacifist. He hasn't killed anyone. He hasn't beat up anyone. He's been threatened. He's been abused. He's been sent away.
I guess he saved people.
Yes.
At his own risk. Yeah.
He sacrificed himself, or he put himself at risk in so many different ways, right?
Mm.
And so for him to be the one to administer the poison, to be the one to execute the emperor, it really shakes his conscience. And so he's drunk. While Londo is like, look, we can't deal with this. We need to go. we need to get the hell out of here. And Veer is
totally dismiss feelings.
Yeah, exactly. Cause he's still in plan mode, right? And Veer's like, whenever I close my eyes, I can still see him. And we get another tender moment where Londo is explaining like, I never wanted anything like this for you, Veer. And we get a little bit of a reflection of Londo's treatment of Veer, where he said, from the very beginning, I was really harsh with you. And the truth is, the reason why I was harsh is because you are still innocent. And after all of this time, you've been able to maintain that. And I was jealous of that. And it's the most, what's the word? It's the
self-aware.
It's the most self-aware and the most reflective that Londo has ever been, because he's no longer trying to bring back this idealized fantasy that he's trying to live by. He realized, like, I kind of ruined you. I was mad at you. I was jealous of you. I abused you. And it was all because I was jealous. You had this job that seemed to not harm you. And you kept, like, your innocence. And that's kind of what I envy. While they're getting ready to leave, Veer looks throughout the window, is like, what was it all for? What was any of it for? And it gives us, the audience, a moment to reflect on it. Londo started the series out as kind of like a nobody. His assignment on Babylon 5 was just to kind of keep him out the way. And once he found out that he could benefit the Empire jumped on it. And their whole thing was, we started a galactic war, destroyed a couple of planets, and we're about to die ourselves for no reason. It's all Londo's fault, by the way. It is all Londo's fault. It's all Londo's fault.
And Mir takes on all that guilt himself when he did nothing but try to stop it.
Right.
Because he just has so much empathy.
Yeah.
And Londo's just a piece of shit. Like, even with all of the growth that he's had, he's still a growing piece of shit.
And Veer's confession of, like, all I wanted was a good job to make a little money, maybe have a wife or somebody to love me. I just wanted that. Like, Veer did not want power. He just wanted to get by.
Mm-hmm.
And he got partnered up with probably the universe's worst being ever and almost destroyed it.
Almost. He wasn't with Cartagia. If he had been with Emperor, he was with someone that the worst being liked.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. Because, like, who's the bigger psychopath? Is it Londo or is it Cartagia? Because Londo planned to kill Cartagia, right? So, I don't know.
Londo looked at Cartagia, as crazy as Londo is, Londo looked at Cartagia and said, we got killed this game.
Like, I know I'm crazy, but he's got to die.
Like, his friend, the other friend that he killed, well, that he had killed, that the Narn killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh, no, I don't trust this dude. I don't like him. Yeah. And then smiling in his face. Oh, my dear friend, blah, blah, blah. Like, that was, I don't like you. I don't trust you. I'm on the opposite side of you. But it wasn't like Cartagia, where it's like, oh, no, we just got to kill this.
Which, okay, you bring something up about Rifa. He was the one that was killed by the Narn. What was Rifa's plan? Because
Cartagia office.
Yeah, I know. Put him in office, and then what? Like Cartagia. Of course, the power is going to run to his mom. It's going to run away with him.
He thought to control Cartagia, which is
right.
That was they were supposed to, like, be in the shadows controlling the person they put in office, and not actually be in office because that was too risky and too much. They wanted the power, but without the responsibility of the power. So let's put an idiot in charge. And then they found out the idiot was a psychopath.
Yeah. Which, do you think Rafa would have been one of those heads in that secret room?
Maybe or maybe not. It depends on, one, Cartagia kills people at a whim. So he could have breathed wrong and not killed.
Yeah.
But he did kill those people because they were voting against him. I think Rifa would have been um trying to manipulate him. If he didn't see someone manipulating him, and apparently he's very easy to manipulate as long as you feed into his ego. So it depends on how smart he was about trying to control him.
Yeah. I don't know.
And Reef was smart. I don't know. And the way he tried to manipulate, if he tried to manipulate Targio the way he tried to manipulate Londo, he may have survived. And he may have gotten away with it. Because we saw Londo control him. It's like, hey, as people need to be able to worship you. If you're here and everybody dies, like that was feeding into his ego. The moment you feed into his ego, he's like perked up. Yeah, yeah, let's do that. So if he knows to do that, then yeah, he probably would have did okay. Of course, we would have a completely different story because then he'd be doing whatever Rifa was trying to do. And if he's got Rifa over there kissing his ass, he wouldn't need um he wouldn't need Londo because he would already have Rifa there, and Rifa already had experience with the shadows. The only reason why they called Londo was because Rifa died.
Right. Yeah. They're like, look, we're gonna draw you back into this because the guy that we liked
So
is dead. You're number 2.
I think I just answered my own question. I answered your question. I answered my question. This is the question that you questioned. Um,
Okay.
he was already fine. It was Londo that was the threat.
Oh, so maybe Londo would have been one of the heads eventually.
Londo was on Babylon 5, wasn't
Yeah, but
he? Londo was
they called him back to Centauri Prime at some point. And then
yeah, they call him after he killed because they call him because they didn't have Cartagia. If they didn't have, am I saying the right person?
Rifa.
If they, yeah, because they didn't have Rifa, they called um Londo. So if Londo doesn't kill Rifa, Cartagio does not need Londo. Londo can stay on Babylon 5.
Or Rifa could have been like, he's a threat because he's trying to tell us to stay away from the shadows. Because remember that very important conversation was like, hey, y'all need to get rid of them.
Oh yeah.
So that could have been a contention, a point of contention.
Yeah. They could have just sent somebody to go kill him. But that still means that what's his name? I forgot his name already.
Fear? Rifa, sorry.
Rifa would still be okay.
Okay.
Because Rifa would have talked him into killing Londo, and I think the question was, would Rifa be one of the heads? Rifa, I don't think would be one of the heads. Rifa would be standing to the side, just being the little devil on his shoulder,
Yeah.
telling him that he's beautiful all day.
Right.
You're so pretty. You should do this.
While talking trash about him behind his back. Yeah. Back on Babylon 5, we see in the war room, Sheridan is convening, and they're packed in there. Like everybody's on the same page. Because at the beginning of the episode, Ivanova did make a comment about how they have amassed pretty much the biggest fleet, and how, shortly before, all of these worlds were squabbling and fighting with each other, and now they're on the same page finally. So it's a bunch of them in the war room. We got the Drazi, we got a bunch of other wrinkle forehead aliens in there. And Sheridan is, outlining the plan for attack, which is, hey, we were trying to plan this out a little bit better, but since they're about to destroy 6 billion people, we need to move right now. The way he explains it is like, look, we can't really destroy them, but we're going to slow them down. We're going to get their attention, drop in, hit them hard, drop out. It's to distract the Vorlons and draw them to a certain place, and then the shadows at the same time. And the idea is they want the shadows and the Vorlons to confront each other directly. He believes he understands the reason why they have been avoiding each other, but he's trying to make it undeniable now that they need to face each other. In this room full of a bunch of people, full of all the aliens, he has Erickson, our good old friend Bryan Cranston, Ranger Erickson, on the view screen, and he's giving him the mission of like, okay, look, we're about to send you some information. It's of our base, of where all of our fleet is going to amass. They'll be there in 3 days. What I need you to do, I need you to have this information. And Erickson is like, gotcha. The enemy will not get this information. And then the entire room just turns still. Because Sheridan is like, you don't quite get my meaning. See, we actually do want the enemy to get their hands on this information, but you can't make it seem like it's a little too easy. You got to fight them off for it. Make it seem important. And Erickson is like, gotcha. Suicide mission. And Sheridan being a very, very humane person, he's like, you got any family? What about your crew? And Erickson is like, look, they're Minbari. They knew what they were signing up for. We're going to give them a good show. And this, to me, made the whole series seem that much more realistic. Because you're not just, you don't have people doing these raids and going in and coming out and winning. They have to set up their own elite squad to die in order to lure in these godlike creatures.
Because they won't come if you like, hey, we want to come chat. They're going to come for you. Yeah. But if you manipulate them into going where they want to go, and unfortunately they have to lose their lives in order to do that. And like back to not to take away the seriousness of it, but the playground analogy kind of makes sense, at least to me. Because if I had a student who was running around the playground and didn't want to line up to go back in, at some point you kind of have to put yourself at risk in order to get them back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to have to run after you, and I'm going to have to risk you getting upset with me, and they're going to throw a tantrum, and I'm going to get hit. Like that's something that I knew would happen every time I had to run after a child who didn't want to come back. And it's not like I really have a choice. I can't just leave you out there, and every other thing that I've tried to do to get you to come back does not work. So, yeah, the playground analogy. They're acting like children.
Yes.
Like, oh, come. We would think it's the mature thing, the wise thing, the above it all thing to discuss things, but they haven't discussed anything in a couple of thousand years. They just keep coming back to fighting again, which again reminds me of a playground. You stop some kids from fighting, they go play and do something else again until they see that person again, they fighting again.
And it also highlights the flaw of extremism, because I pointed out in last episode how the Shadows and the Vorlons are extremists. They are the extremes of two different sides. One, they're old ones. They're the first ones. They're extremely powerful, and they both think that they are right about their way of handling the galaxy. And instead of them having a moment to discuss it, debate it, and end up on the same page, they've drifted further and further away to where their influence harms all of the other species, the younger species that are caught in the middle. But they don't attack each other directly. They hate each other. They hear of each other. The only time that we know of the Shadows attacking the Vorlons was when that group of Shadows with Morden went and murdered Kosh. That's it.
Yeah. And then the self-reflection, they had thousands of years to do. And someone like Londo manages somehow do some self-reflection eventually.
Oh God, yeah. He has to face the truth. And the reason why the Shadows killed Kosh was because Kosh directly intervened to save Sheridan's life. So they're like, we can't be having that. That's the treaty, and you broke it. So we're basically setting up Bryan Cranston on a suicide mission.
So
Um,
he can be reincarnated
yeah,
into a dad.
yeah. On Narn, there is a celebration. The Narn who were left in the palace are destroying it. They're breaking things up, and they're happy because the Centauri are leaving. And Jakar is walking in. He's like, "What are y'all doing?" And the Narn that is there is like, "We won. We've driven them away with our strength because they knew they couldn't fight us." Bro is being way too delusional, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's suggesting like, okay, Jakar, what we're going to do is as soon as you're ready, we're going to go attack them back. We're going to destroy the Centauri. And Jakar is like, why do you want to keep fighting? We've been
Right.
through
That's
this.
why we got attacked in the first place.
Right.
Because we keep fighting back every time we get our freedom. We can't let it go.
Right. We always got to get back revenge. And this is kind of like that the point that was made by Londo earlier, even though it wasn't like spoken out directly. If the Narn attack the Centauri, they will be plunged back into war. The Narn throughout this whole series have not been doing good in these fights. In the battle for Narn against the Centauri, and when they were trying to it was when they were lured away from their home world. They went into that ambush that destroyed most of their fleet. They got their asses kicked. And then that freighter or that heavy ship was parked at Babylon 5. They were getting their asses kicked until the Minbari showed up. Like, the Narn are not good at war. That is not what they should be doing.
No.
And their whole thing is like, we need to get revenge. We need to get revenge. And every time they're like, we need to get the revenge, Jakar is like, no, we don't. We need to be doing something greater. And their whole thing is like, well, if it was the Centauri, they'd do the same thing. But Jakar explains like, the Centauri are a lost people. Like, we don't need to be like them.
No. And then he also mentions them having a leader.
Yes.
And he's like, we had a group of leaders, not just one. And he's like, the Centauri did. And like, why are you trying to mimic your oppressors?
Right.
Which sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was like, I won't sit on the throne. I'll lead as long as the Kari is here. There's a group of us, but this is not who we are. We're not dictators. And then the dude calls him a coward. And he's like, where were you when we were under attack? What sacrifices have you made? And in that brief pause that Jakar has, I could just remember Jakar did drugs. He's been tortured. He went to prison. He lost an eye. And he, at every chance that he could have been a full Narn and gotten revenge, he had to hold back because it wasn't just about him as an individual. It's about his entire species. And Jakar is like, what did I endure? What did I sacrifice? And he just walks off hysterically laughing because it's just the most absurd question.
I guess from their perspective, but their perspective is not knowing where he was, other than the fact that they just saw them pull him out all beaten to be assassins.
Right.
Which, like, this whole thing with him being a prisoner of the Centauri was also kind of another Jesus arc that he goes through.
Yeah. Yep. Or
being crucified.
He was being crucified. Or you could also say like Samson. He had the strength of God to break those chains. Yeah, but spiritual Jakar had to come out at that moment, and I know later on we'll see further development of this version of Jakar, but we'll wait. In the meantime, Sheridan is reviewing the final transmission from the White Star 14, which was Ericsson's White Star, and this is super sad because we can hear him communicating back and forth with the ships around him, and he's out there by himself, one-on-one, being destroyed. And then the transmission goes blank, and they got confirmation that the Shadows are alerted, and they're headed toward Coriana 6. And that's the thing. So the Vorlons are headed to Coriana 6. Sheridan and the War Council had to trick the Shadows into luring them there. So now we got Shadows and Vorlons all going to Coriana 6 at the cost of Rangers and Minbari. It's very sad. Delenn comes in and she encourages Sheridan to join the fleet, and Sheridan goes into the kind of like this monologue. It's a voiceover as they're showing them in a war council, and they're preparing for the last battle of the Shadow War. And he said, when I first got here, there was a letter on my desk, and there was a poem written by Tennyson. And he explains, like, I still remember the ending. Now, the poem that he's talking about is Ulysses by Tennyson, and this thing is really long. So it's not just like what they share on the show is very profound. And it's about being able to strive and survive through these terrible times, right? It was left to him by the previous commander, which is Sinclair. Whew. And it makes me wonder, what is the philosophical differences between these characters? But the line goes, we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven. That which we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by the time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. And it just kind of gives this sense of we're moving towards a conclusion, and we don't know how this is going to end. We can't back out of it now. We have to show our resolve. And so we are strong in will, and we're not going to give up. And then the episode concludes. So we got to see these other major stories conclude. And also, like, I didn't point this out, but that fifth story, which is Erickson, ooh, that's really sad. You got to talk to this guy, and you're like, look, we need you to go on a suicide mission. And it really breaks Sheridan. He hates it, and so does like the other characters,
which is a nice contrast to Richard, who was like, yeah, this is gonna be awesome, it's gonna be great, we're gonna be victorious, you're gonna come back and it's gonna be awesome, thank you for your duty, knowing that he's sending them to all die.
Right. Yeah. Which, yeah, they killed a lot of people in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to see a little bit of Ivanova share her story, and we want to cry about that. The end of Jakar's story as a prisoner, the end of Londo's story as trying to get the Centauri out of this war, the end of Veer's story and him just really trying hard to figure out his place in the galaxy. And when we end, we don't end with the confrontation. We don't end the Shadow War, but we're prepared.
We ended that battle.
Yeah.
No, actually, that wasn't even a battle.
It was like a setup. Yeah.
This was still recon.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's moving us towards the conclusion of this big war, but we're barely in the middle of this season, and we got a lot of questions. Garibaldi, what's up with him? You know? I've been hinting at it, even though they've kind of like, even though they sprinkled some breadcrumbs throughout the episodes, they kind of left it alone for a bit. But what's up with Delenn? For real? Like, what's up with because think about it, like, the Minbari there's something going on with them still. We know a little bit about the Minbari souls being born in humans. We know that they have this relationship with the Vorlons. There's some weird time travel stuff. But, like, for real, all of those things, and there's still some secrets. We need to figure that out. Oh, yeah, and we haven't heard a thing from Psycor in a while. So what are they up to?
No. other than the small hint that they did something to Garibaldi.
Right. And their
Yeah,
potential.
I don't call him Garibaldi.
You say that again?
Garibaldi, Baldy,
Baldy.
Garibaldi.
Yeah. They do hint at Psychor's potential alliance with the Shadows too. But what is so funny and weird about it is the Shadows, of course, are using humans to achieve their goal, but um Psychor thinks they're using the Shadows to achieve their goal. So we got two manipulative sides trying to do something, and we'll catch back up with Psychor shortly. So,
Cyclone's so arrogant.
oh yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Everybody thinks they're using the Shadows, and the Shadows are like, no, you're not. But it's the same thing with the Vorlons. The Vorlons, I don't think people think they're using the Vorlons, but they think that they are like gaining knowledge and enlightenment by connecting to the Vorlons. And no, you're not. You're being manipulated.
Yeah, they act like they are, but they're not. And that's something weird. Kind of like we talked a long time ago about the phenomenon that when people speak or say something with enough confidence, it's believed.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the Vorlons have for like being wise and knowledgeable. Like, okay, yeah, their tech is like really impressive. Obviously, they're very smart when it comes to tech, but I mean, we have evidence of that.
Yeah.
But is there just an impression that they are so deep because we don't quite understand them? Because that could go either way. Like, you can either be on such a non-communicative route that you either look really stupid or really smart.
Yeah. Yep. Also,
But then we know there's plenty of people who will say absolutely nothing about a subject, and people will believe that they know everything about that subject or know more than most people do.
true. Yeah.
So annoying.
But also, us as the audience, maybe we're being manipulated by the Vorlons too. Just kind of like think of it kind of like a meta manipulation, because the Vorlons are still presented in this positive light, but let's give them an episode or two and we'll see how we should really be taking a look at the Vorlons.
Yeah.
Because their true we've seen what their true form is, but they take a form later that is kind of terrifying.
But like in some other literature that I've been learning about, the question of how do humans write something more intelligent and wiser than a human? Can we do that? I mean, other than like putting it outside of ourselves, how do we write that within ourselves? Um, I think about N.K. Jemisin's God, I forgot the name of the trilogy, and it's got 4 books, but it shows up as a trilogy because she finished the trilogy and then she wrote a whole nother one to add to it. But and they're about gods, but gods are so like even though they have so many more abilities than us and they can see through time and space and everything, they still have emotions and
Oh yeah.
thoughts like us stupid humans. Uh,
Yeah.
it needs like emotional and they need each other for some reason.
Hmm.
And I think she used it as a gods as a metaphor for no matter how the to express what human needs are outside of our normal span of perception by taking us to a higher span of perception, but the gods are very human. And all through mythology a lot of gods are just so very human.
Yep. Yep. So it's it's kind of like an exploration of our psyche, like the unspoken parts, and
Mm-hmm.
we like to explore. We like to explore like the subconscious, the parts that make us afraid, the parts that are mysterious to us. And those are fun to think about. And I guess that's why, like, for instance, like with the Vorlons, when they do speak and they do sound mysterious, we like that because it's like things that we don't know are probably better. When in reality, things that we don't know will probably kill us. And that's why it's important for us to know things. And that's probably why humans want to know so much about the supernatural, want to know about gods and things like that, because we would definitely we would like to have a little bit of a foreknowledge of those things so we can interact in such a way that allows us to navigate and live through it, but it's mysterious. And that's kind of like it's that human part of us that's like we don't know if the gods are actually on our side, so we better act we better behave just in case.
It's the comfort of those big scary things that we don't understand. If I feel comfortable with this other big scary thing, then maybe that one will have my back, and that way I don't have to be so afraid of the other big scary thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're the ones who have to confront the big scary things before anything can be done, because those things that we rely on to protect us sometimes are just out for their own interests and don't care about you at all.
Yeah. Yep. Like, how dare we think that we can reason with a god? Right? Right?
Yeah. Right. Do we speak the same language? Like, they understand us, but we don't understand them at all. I mean, like, the first ones are very much a metaphor for gods.
Yes.
And what's his name?
Lorien.
The one that brought back Lorien.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the relationship that people feel like they have with God. And it's kind of perishable because he's like, yeah, he's there and you can find him and I'll help heal you. But he doesn't really do anything.
No, not at all.
He's there. Like, they're struggling. Like, Sheridan is almost dying and he's just like, meh. But I mean, it is easy for him to just, heal him, I guess. But at the same time, like, everyone else is freaking out and struggling, and he just, without any real empathy, technically. Yeah, but he ain't got no empathy for us being hurt.
Yeah. All right, let's get on out of here because we can go deep into this. It's fun to think about, though, right?
Yes. Always. It's important to think about.
Yeah. All right. Thank y'all for joining us for this episode of Voices in Hyperspace. You can catch us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook is a good place where you can continue the conversation at Voices in Hyperspace. I am Legendary Black Lion. You can catch me on Instagram at Legendary Black Lion. I'm
Captain No Asylum. You can find me at No's Rebellion, where you can find links to my books and my social medias. And don't forget to find the Voices in Hyperspace Facebook and say hi. Just drop a message. We'll say hi back.
Yeah. And we will see you out there.